Again, I implore you to remember, f your puts, f your calls. Jay Powell has you by the balls. God bless my money printer.
What is going on YouTube? It's Brendan for Market Makers. Boys and girls, if you skipped the Powell press conference, let me briefly recap for you. We got the 25 bips. ECB also raised 25 bips, but really the part that was pure torture was watching the questions and answers, because Powell had a canned answer and the ECB with Lagarde basically did the same thing, but he had a canned answer of answering nothing. So data dependent was the mantra over and over. Non-committal on future guidance. The only thing he said that kind of spooked the markets is they don't have inflation returning to the 2% target until 2025. So the higher for longer, because that's when Powell's saying there could be possibly rate cuts. So that spooked the market briefly, but then we got a GDP number came in this morning at 2.4%. It's an advanced read. It'll undoubtedly be revised, could be revised higher, could be revised lower, but the street was predicting 1.8. So I don't think this will be the last rate hike. We're trading at a very, very premium multiple, almost 20x times now on the S&P, which is very expansionary. To put that in contrast, we're at 5.25%, 5.5% rates now, and back at the all-time high, which we're still not at, we were at 0% rates. So the market is still in the whole viewpoint of not believing the Fed, that they could potentially raise more and that they're going to hold it for as long as they hold it. And as a matter of fact, what were all the professional money managers saying just before this meeting? Lee, montage me.
This is likely one and done.
One and done. One and done.
It's one and done.
That's what I would do if I were there.
July 25 basis points hike.
That's in the cards.
Baked in the cake.
The done deal.
We'll have to see what happens from there.
Really, the only question is what happens after Wednesday.
What kind of signal do they give us for September?
The probabilities of a hike, after July are probably somewhat higher than the markets are currently expecting.
The timing of the next possible rate hike is October-November meeting.
It's going to depend on inflation as well as the growth trajectory.
They'll keep a rate hike on the table.
They want to leave the door open.
To emphasize that optionality.
We'll get a lot more data between now and then to try to figure this out.
That's right. One and done. They were saying one and done. So it could be one and done, but let me give you the scenario that it would be one and done. It's one and done if things start crashing, okay? If you look at the last 3 cycles on the Fed raising rate cycles, every single time they went to cut was when the markets were crashing. You look at GFC and .com just in the last 20 years, that's when you get cuts. The soft landing narrative, you're in the soft landing right now. This is the soft landing. The question is, will this hold or will things progressively get worse? Germany's in a recession. China's easing, which makes it look like they're in a recession as well. We don't know because they lie about their economic data. Second and third largest economies in the world in recessions. If Germany's in a recession, what do you think is going to happen with the rest of the EU? Well, their stock market doesn't believe it. We're going to look at the European indices as well. So let's go ahead and jump into this, because the key to trading is to want what the market wants. Forecasting and trading are 2 separate things. My macro views have not changed. When will the new lows come in? When the recession is realized that it's going to happen, okay? And when could that happen, guys? I don't have a bunch of PhDs like the Fed does working on this day and night. I have me, I have Lee, and I have some staff in the Discord. But I still think that you're looking at, Q4, maybe Q3 if things accelerated quickly to the downside. But end of the year, beginning of next year seems like a likely scenario. And as long as you have positive GDP, GDI is negative, but as long as you have positive GDP, then you're going to have this be prolonged out. But the point being, markets won't trade at such a high multiple for very long. So very important to watch support and resistance levels. Looking at the VIX, no F's given. You are below a 13 on the VIX, okay? The market liked what Powell said. He tried to come off measured. He came off dovish, in my opinion, despite what other people may say. He came off dovish, which is why you have a VIX below 13. What's interesting is the VIX is below 13, but the dollar's moving up. 101.680. This has to do with the 5.25 to 5.50 Fed funds rate. So again, you have the dollar rebounding some, which means what? Which means I missed out on so much money on my short from that candle, guys. Oh, that rogue candle. Very nice move. Holding support here on the euro dollar at the 618 one spot 1002. If this doesn't hold, you want to see if you sweep this valley. If you don't hold that valley, which is roughly at one spot 0833, then this could be coming down lower. Okay, so you want to see if this holds and you get this move back up to continue this channel uptrend that you are in. But fantastic trade. If any of you out there in YouTube land happened to take it when I was discussing it, I got stopped out of it, unfortunately. Looking at the Dow. So I went ahead and threw the Dow in my pivot pattern. And amazingly, it caught some fantastic information here. It caught the exact top, obviously the exact bottom, and then it caught some trend changes, the exact top before the downward move. And we have our upward move. And once again, you have your pivot back to the downside. And again, your pivot back to the upside. And then you have your sideways pivot, which gave you this little retracement, very similar to the S&P, obviously. This little bit of a retracement before you had a Wyckoff accumulation and now your current up move. Why are we talking about this? Because the Dow is about to, if it closes positive today, which it's only up 46 points, so it's iffy, okay? It's iffy if it does, but if it closes positive today, it's the 14th positive close. That breaks the record going back to 1897. Think about how long ago that was. President Biden was a teenager. Okay, 1897, long time ago. The Dow itself was actually formed in 1896. So that just shows you the mania in the marketplace right now, which is very, very palpable. But even now, it's struggling on top of or just beneath our trend channel. This overbought reading on the MFI is at 100. It's at 100 on the daily time frame. So regardless of how bullish you will be, one thing that's consistent across the major indices is a strong retracement, I believe, is coming. So a strong retracement, I believe, is coming, and you have the August 14th pivot date. And if we just look at this, let's just throw on our volume weight at 21. That would be your mean reversion trade when this thing tops out. 34,638. So roughly 1,000 points below. Okay, if this starts topping out and breaking down, it's 1,000 points below just to come back to the 21 because it's so overheated. So it's definitely worth watching this. We got a top of our ascending wedge, still beneath my magical trend channel here. So we'll see if that ends up holding up. And I hope it does. I think they'll keep it propped up just to get that new record. Because again, it took a long time to get that record. So we'll see if that happens. All right, so let's jump over to S&P. S&P, same thing, guys. You have your 21 below you at 44.95, so almost 4,500. So about an 87, well, 90 plus dollar drop to come down to the 21. You're struggling here on the daily. The target that I told you in the prior video I was looking at, if we got kind of a dovish Powell, was 46.47. So if this can continue to climb, that's where I'm looking at. And when I look at my indicators, you still have bearish divergence on the money in the market. You're not overbought. So despite what's happening right now of giving up some of this pump, we have August 14th pivot, and that could be a key time. And again, till then, like we talked about, you could be chopping around. You could come back down to 45.26, which you've already tested. Let's see if we have this on the other chart. We do. You could come back down to 45.26, bounce back up, bounce around here to August 14th. Key pivot. What does a pivot mean? Change of direction. So if the trend is up, we want to see if that pivot plays out and gives us a larger drop. Like that 18% pivot would be fantastic. But, you know, we'll see what this does. And the obvious target, the initial target is always going to be your mean reversion, which is going to be at the 21, guys. So roughly, like I said, just over 90 points down. That would be your target. You lose that. You can see how many times you've kissed it, by the way, in the uptrend, right? Keep coming back and kissing it. So that's all we're talking about here, kissing it here. This is what we're talking about, this mean reversion trade. And then you could come back up and you could make some type of bearish shape, or you could go up to a higher level. So we have to see what happens. This is just a part of trading, but right now I'm waiting to see if we get a top out in this range between 45.90 and 46.47 will be a key trading range for me. Momentum's still good. Again, Powell is dovish. If the dollar stops rising, I think you're going to get to that 46.47. We shall see. And if we look at this on the 1 hour time frame, just a bunch of different. We have an ascending wedge. We broke out to the upside, hit my target beautifully at 46.06, holding on top of this wedge. So immediate time frame, guys. I mean, this will probably be too late when the video comes out, but you want to see a retest of that 46.06 range, pull down a fib, small time frame trading, and see if you get a failure or if you break this and maybe make an N-shaped pattern and get above. Let's go ahead and look at the NASDAQ. How's the NASDAQ handling the news? NASDAQ tried to rally up to the 786 at 15,818, and it didn't quite make it, and then it started selling off, and then obviously you see the shape here, right? So you have a double top potentially forming. Again, I still think it's too early. You have bearish divergence on a NASDAQ. Microsoft sold off. I guess their numbers overall were disappointing to some analysts or big money managers, and they sold off. And Meta apparently did better. So, it's a mixed bag, and that's where we're at in the cycle. You still have a resilient GDP, according to the people that report the GDP, which work for the government. So we'll see how that, we'll see how accurate that is as it gets revised. But that's where you're at in this cycle, is that it's still a mixed bag. And because you have a mixed bag, you're going to have some volatility. If this does turn more bullish, I'm looking at 16,283. That's what I'm looking at there on the NASDAQ. Jump over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, okay, so the bull case, guys, is still intact for the bulls if the markets do continue to rally. Bitcoin is selling off some here, but it does this. Okay, we talked about this. You have your Fibonacci pattern here that gives you this nice retracement from 31.8 all the way down to 28,855. So a nice little short there opportunity. And again, this is about if the S&P does show true strength. Maybe we get a strong move up. If the August 14th pivot just gives you a minor retracement like the last pivot, and the NASDAQ and the S&P and everything continues to move up, then I'm looking at 34.7 and 39,791. However, if that doesn't happen and Bitcoin's doing this move, we're going to look at this on the daily, because on the daily, you do have some near oversold conditions, and you have volatility compression very strongly in this range. And we talked about this last video, which was just 2 days ago. But guys, Bitcoin does these moves before the pump, and you're getting this drift down at some point in some time frame. You have some type of falling wedge type pattern, right? So you're holding the 382. 28,875. I told you where this looks like more of a reversal is when you get below the 618 at 27,301. That's when you start looking at a reversal to the downside, okay? So as long as you stay above 28K, basically. Stay above 28K and 27K, have your alerts up, be paying attention at 27.3 if you lose the 618. But I think you're trying to hold this 382 range, and we'll see if we do get that last move up in the equities before the pivot. And then if the pivot plays out, which it doesn't have to, it is a pattern, but it's been playing out since the market bottom. So it doesn't have to play out, but if it does, then it's very important to watch it because you should have a change in direction. What's happening with gold? What we thought would happen with gold. You're just making a head and shoulders pattern still as of now, or a disjointed double top, doesn't matter, however you want to look at it. And if you look at this again, you got rejected at just above 1977, and you're selling off some, you're at 1946. You need to hold 1909 here on gold, guys, to keep this uptrend going. You lose this 618, again, you start looking at a reversal. So 1909 is a key level for gold to hold. Look at silver, same thing. We talked about this, hitting the 786, got to the 786, got rejected. Again, a head and shoulders type pattern, disjointed double top. You have a Fibonacci pattern in here as well. However you want to look at it, doesn't matter. It needs to flip 25 spot 27, and it needs to not sweep this valley down here. If it sweeps that valley, then again, reversal on silver, okay? And that's at 22 spot 29. What's Tesla doing? Tesla's stuck at that 268 resistance. It's at 266.5. Has a gap up here. If the markets do turn more bullish, look for that gap up at 289 to potentially get filled. And then the key is to watch Tesla, because a lot of people believe in gaps. It doesn't matter if you believe in gap fills or not, but because other people do, it comes to fruition oftentimes. The Russell pumped up some, got bullish, and then sold back off. Again, this is your small caps. I guess you could say, yeah, there's probably some mid caps in there, but it's your small caps too. And it's at 1974. It went all the way up to 2002. So it's bottlenecked in this range, 1955, 1992. And I would treat this just like a Wyckoff range. If you get above it and pivot out, next target 2039. You start breaking down with this double top that you made at 1955, especially if you come up, back test it and fall down. Well, then your next target's 1900. And when you're trading between key fib levels like that, you'll see that all the time. JPN, the Bank of Japan, meets Friday. So this is one to watch. We have a lot of different things going on here in this type of market. We hit our cycle high to not quite to the dollar, just slightly over, but very, very close, as you can see at the 2618, our cycle high for where I predicted this would go vis-a-vis Fibonacci waves. And we got to 33,633. We have this nice double bottom structure that came in here. Bank of Japan, are they going to continue yield curve control, or are they going to let their bond yields rise, putting pressure on equities? These are all, and the yen would rise in that scenario too. These are all questions that need to be answered. And what I'm looking at here at the Bank of Japan tomorrow, 33,218. 33,218 is 786. You break the 786, then you need to watch 33,633. But again, if they continue with their yield curve control, you could see some euphoria. And obviously, just like everything else, whenever you're in accumulation and Wyckoff, guys, pivot out to the upside. So holding 33,633 can give you more upward moves. Retracement levels, I'm watching that area, okay? Very important. Let's look at the DAX. So this is interesting. Want to spend a minute here on this. I'm trying to get through this so Lee can get about his day and do other things and not spend all day encoding the videos. So he's probably watching this like, oh my God, stop talking. The DAX, guys. So this is interesting. I just want to, this presents a great encapsulation of the disjointed market. Germany is in a recession. Their manufacturing came in at 38. That's near pandemic lows. Look over here. When people thought the world was ending, that's where Germany's manufacturing is. And look at what you're getting a new all-time high right now on the DAX, okay? 16,4, where we're at, 16,431. Previous all-time high, which you also made on this recovery pump, was 16,426. So you've defeated it by $5. So the DAX has made 3 all-time highs in this cycle post-pandemic. All-time high, all-time high, all-time high, okay? This is the disjointed world that we're in right now. And for whatever reason, the DAX still wants to move up because it's tracking with the US equities. So if you view it like this, if you view it like Bitcoin made its 3 big tops, right? Let's go ahead and go back to the Bitcoin chart, because this applies to all the charts that we're looking at. 3 days. This is a 3-day chart, but this is the movement we're talking about, okay? Your pandemic low. Major impulse up, the Gann market pattern, 3 primary ways, right? Major impulse up, sell off, new all-time high. So all-time high, and then massive sell-off minus 75%. Well, Bitcoin led the equities in this sense, and the European indices is what I'm trying to say, a very convoluted way. The European indices led the US markets. So you have your pandemic, and then you have your waves. I'm going to just draw it like this so it's easier for people to see. Right now you had this. This is what you had. You had your pandemic, you had your move up, and then your move down, your sell-off, and then your recovery. Okay, so this is what you've done, a 3 primary wave market pattern. And the question is, where will this get to if the US equities continue to rally, which clearly is what also drives the DAX. Again, you could overlay the S&P and you can see this as well. But 16,867 is my next target, my near-term target. And really it's in between fib projections. How I lay out my fibs, I always like to look at clusters of targets. I have 16,867, 17,457. That seems like a stretch. 16,867 is definitely within striking distance. It's 400 points. So you could see that, and that would be my cycle high for this market. And again, that would be a new all-time high in the DAX while the country is in a recession, being Germany. Okay. So again, all of this will start to turn around, but this is where some inflows are going into. Lots of people still believe, money managers, investing in Europe is better than the USA because they're looking at lagging data. Pandemic low on the French 40, and then you have all-time high, new all-time high, French 40 trying to come up. My cycle high that I had with Fibonacci waves is 76.58. You're at 74.72. I would watch that 76.58. I expect strong resistance there at that level. If you can get there, if the US equities don't start rolling over, because again, can overlay these things and you can see they move with the US equities. But just like Bitcoin, if Bitcoin lead the way, then the European indices sell off, rebound faster, and USA is in that rebound recovery mode. And some people, the super bullish people, think that's just an indicator to prove that we could go to new all-time highs in the US. You could, you're not that far away. Again, it's not my base case that that's going to happen, but again, it's all about what you think is going to happen in the marketplace. Here on the daily time frame, a little bit lower target, 75.56. Watch and see if you can get that, get retracement. You'll know if you're going to another new all-time high on the CAC if you do come up to like that 75.56 and you're able to hold above in this range, right, for support. So if you can come up to 75.56, not get a major retracement, you currently have your low, your higher low structure, your nice rebound up with the US equities, and you're coming up to this target. Okay, so that's what you want to watch here on the CAC 75.56. And if you can get above it, you're going to take out that previous all-time high. All right, guys, that's the video today. Like, subscribe, comment. Video is brought to you by our fantastic exchanges. If you do want to trade with us, guys, check out SimpleFX, check out BingX, and help support the channel. And they'll also pay for your first month in our Discord. Those links and all the details are in the video description. Message Lee on Telegram if you have any issues at all with an exchange, with joining our room. However we can help you guys. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you all Monday.